Before I get into Senator Joe Griffo, I'll ask you guys this question. Fruit, the one thing about fruit is you never have to worry about fat, right?
Well,
That's not true, is it?
Well, some fruits do have fat.
Really?
And mango is a fruit with fat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Strike two.
Yeah, it's fatty fruit. It's, as they say, fatty fruit. And it is, sorry, Nagel. It is 1.3 grams. There's 1.3 grams of fat in a mango. Who would have thunk it? I would never know that.
I bet you next Thursday he rolls in with something New York, though.
Hey, I really do like this beer. I just want to say it's really, really good. Senator Joe Griffo is in here this morning. Good morning, Senator. Good morning.
Good morning, William, Jeff, and Christine. And
you like this, too,
Nagel.
right? This is a really good beer.
I'm a tropical guy, so papaya, mango, all that stuff, I think is pretty good.
Yeah.
In fact, the Secret Service normally give code names to people that they're watching. I think your code name would be Mango.
Mango. Call me Mango. I like it. Wasn't there an old SNL Mango bit where the guy would do something with mango and then slap himself? Well, let's forget that. Here we go, Senator Griffo.
They're not getting the visual of this, Bill. You want to try that one more time?
Wait, speaking of visuals, can we just acknowledge Mr. Nagel's attire, that he actually matches the Ballast beer case?
That is
again,
every
you're just
time you come in,
incredible.
you match the beer cans.
I'm sorry. I was put on the spot there.
That is awesome. You really do. Your tie and your shirt, everything, it blends
tried.
right
Well,
in.
you guys,
It's very nice.
You're a mango-touting fashionista.
Okay, this has gone really right down the tubes, Joe.
Now to politics.
Okay, Joe. So listen, the announcement,
segue.
the special election the other night, and the Republicans lose another seat in the Senate. That becomes a dangerous point for upstate, right? I mean, it could.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, the race was a special election there, so there are a lot of intangibles that come into play in a special. The enrollment there is overwhelmingly Democratic now because the demographics of the communities have changed. You hope that people are going in and looking at the candidates, but a lot of times when you're downstate, a lot of people just go in and go down a certain line on the ballot, unfortunately. This case, there are just a lot of things. You had the special, you had the presidential. So, and people had to vote two different times because they couldn't vote on the same ballot, obviously. I understand turnout was not as good as it should have been, which is really interesting because I thought there would be increased turnout, particularly with the
with
Trump
everybody
and
coming
Clinton
out.
in the race. So, obviously, people will look at this. It's still too close to call, actually. The election has not been decided, even though the Democrat candidate is ahead by several hundred votes. But there will be recounts now.
He's saying the Democrats saying they won.
Well, obviously, and at this point is in the lead, and ultimately that would potentially be sustained.
What does it mean? What does it mean though? Because here's what we're really talking about. We're talking about the Senate majority upstate, which has prevented things like microstamping and other things that are very important to us, a different way of life. And I talked to both a Democrat and a Republican in Albany yesterday that said, if the Senate loses, you tell me if you believe this, if the Republicans lose the Senate in November, expect in 2017 microstamping will become law in New York State.
Yeah, that's a very good probability because there's a number of pieces of Democratic legislation that we have been able to prevent. I think the important thing that people, and I respect people's opinions, philosophic differences, party affiliations, but in the end, what we need is some balance in this state. And you need those checks and balances in our government. When you have this divided government, we have shown that you can find consensus and still govern and get results without trying to impose some of the policies that I think would be detrimental from an economic standpoint and also from a lifestyle perspective here in upstate New York. For instance, just a couple of weeks ago in the Codes Committee, which I serve on, which most criminal justice measures, criminal laws go before this committee, there was a proposal by one of the New York City Democrats to put in a proposal that would force everyone to store their firearm in their house in a specific type of storage. Now, obviously,
you'd have to buy a special gun safe.
Something similar to that, and the bottom line is,
I got to tell you,
defeated it by one vote in committee. So, if that changes the complexion of the Senate, obviously, then something like that becomes law because there's much more sympathy in the assembly. And I think.
And by the way, you're talking about a law that it's different than saying, when you go out into the woods, you gotta, there are certain regulations. They're coming into your home now and saying inside your house. Now, will they do inspections? Is the gun inspector going to come in and see what safe you have? I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, the concern here is obviously looking at this when you have one party control and domination from one region, that becomes, everything becomes skewed from that philosophic perspective. And we've seen a New York City-centric government before in 2009. We had over $14 billion in new taxes and new spending. The 18A tax, we call that, it's called 18A, but it's an energy tax. So many of your energy bills are higher because of that. The GEA was put into place back then under that kind of construct of government.
Yeah.
So I think that's just unhealthy. You need geographic and political balance in order to ensure, particularly here in upstate New York, some of our philosophy, some of our perspectives and viewpoints are being not only considered, but actually taken into play. So I think that's the thing that worries me most if we are to see this divided government, which I think can work and has shown that we can get things done, evidenced by a budget being on time again for the sixth consecutive year. So yes, to me this is troubling because I think people sometimes don't tend to look at this. They'll look at one individual race or one individual candidate and not realizing the ramifications.
Right, what it means statewide.
Statewide.
Yeah. Tom is on right now with a question. Tom, go ahead. You're on with Senator Joe Griffo.
Hi, Joe. Tommy McLaughlin here. Listen, this is one of the examples of why we should do whatever we can to break off at West Point and let downstate drift off with its own separate state.
I'm surprised, Tom, that you are a supporter of the separation of upstate and New York City.
Well, I have been from my first congressional campaign and my work with Perot since 1992.
Yeah.
You have to think some of the laws that they're coming up with are just designed for people who go to work through a hole in the ground, New York, and who live in hives.
Yeah. What do you say to this, Joe?
Well, I understand that, and I recognize that. I think there are a lot of other challenges in a proposal like that, particularly from an economic perspective. I offer an alternative to that.
So much money comes out of New York City.
But I offer an alternative that I think could provide permanent balance here, and it's modeled after our federal government, actually. And it would have to challenge a Supreme Court ruling of one person, one vote. But I think in this case, if we could look at what our forefathers and our founding fathers looked at, which actually works very well, is that the lower house, the assembly, would be based on population. So there's 150 assemblymen. You would all be based like the House of Representatives, where the greatest population is. You would have more representatives there.
Yep.
In the Senate, like in the United States Senate, here I would propose that we have 62 counties and that each county have one senator. So right now we have 63 senators, so you'd lose a position. We'd go to 62, every county would have one. That would immediately...
Upstate would be represented better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even be required as a result of that to do all of the gerrymandering or that you see right now. Yeah. You wouldn't need these bipartisan commissions because geography would dictate everything. That's the beauty of that, and that would immediately bring you political and geographic balance. So, for instance, Long Island, which has 9 senators right now, would only have 2 because there's only 2 counties in Long Island.
So what are the chances, though, Joe, of that ever getting anywhere, especially with the more leverage that upstate it loses?
Well, absolutely. I mean, people that are in power now, particularly downstate, are not going to want to see that. But I think that stands a better opportunity than a separation perspective, because people are not going to really endorse or embrace that either. But I get what Tom is saying, and I think this is another method or manner that could accomplish something similar.
All right, Tom, I appreciate the call. Thanks.
Sure thing.
Okay, and last, I got to roll. The last topic, though. Yesterday was a big day here in the area. There was a groundbreaking, and this is coming, everything seems to be coming to fruition here now.
Absolutely, Bill, and you look at this again yesterday, I know a lot of people still have concerns, and the economy dictates a lot, but yesterday was another illustration and demonstration of the commitment by this company the commitment by the state of New York. You saw that in the budget. We delivered over $575 million, the Assemblyman and myself working together with support of the administration to put into this. We got a great local team with the county exec, the town supervisor, the mayors. I mean, everybody's working together, focused. Yesterday, just again, is another step in that direction. Now, look, it's going to take a couple of years to build this facility, but the company with all of their brass was here yesterday, and they're a internationally recognized company. They're not just an upstart company right now. So I think that bodes well for the future here. The Quad C, we're going to see activity in that hopefully by the fall with General Electric and some other companies. So things are moving. As you indicated, over $900 million.
That's in New York, when we met up with you at Fox Studios in New York, we did the math, and without the arterial project, it's over $900 million that has been invested in here in the last few years that you guys have really fought for, and the hospital capped that number off.
And the lieutenant governor was here yesterday. Ironically, she indicated the same thing. That you had said earlier, that when you really start adding these numbers up, this is a significant investment, and it really is a credit and reflection on all of us working together and delivering.
It's amazing how I can add when the numbers are below 10. So I know it's million here, but it's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. I was able to.
Has not been working with you as she was before?
She did the math, and I just regurgitated it. So anyway, it was big yesterday. Now you will have people that are going to say another empty building, but listen, there can be no full building until you build it, right? Until it's constructed.
I recognize that, again, people. You need to bring people along. People are not going to believe. They hear things, but from this point, we have really delivered. Money has been dedicated to this. A company has identified and made a commitment. This is a unique construct, though, because before the state didn't build buildings for companies, but that's what you're essentially doing now. And I'm a little uncomfortable, as we talked about this, with the government getting involved in all these kind of economic activities. Incentives are one thing, but now the government is beginning to subsidize businesses, not only here, across the nation.
We could stomp our feet and say this isn't right, and we'd sit here and watch every other state in the union benefit. And I feel the same way about the money, and I know there are some that don't agree. But if this $900 million that came here, if it didn't come here, it wasn't like it was going back into the taxpayers' wallets. It was going somewhere else.
I see my role and responsibility, particularly my position, to continue to focus attention on our communities and to direct the resources here that we need. And working with the Assemblyman, I think we have developed a pretty good partnership and a good team across here, and it's evidenced by what we're seeing here. Now, we got to continue to believe. There's still going to be challenges ahead, but I do think that this could be, and we maybe overuse this word, but this is a transformational opportunity for this region, and that hasn't happened in over a generation.
They're doing this competition for a new business, come up with a new idea they're going to invest money in. Did you see that latest thing that they're doing in the area? I'm going to start an indoor mango farm, and I got to tell you, I think there's some money in this.
Well, it's not
comedy club in the back.
You're not too far off. I met with somebody yesterday
over here. I mean, this is going to be huge.
Talking about we did meet with somebody yesterday from Lewis County talking about indoor farming.
Well, that's
so it's
huge.
kind of
it really is. I mean, you're seeing it right now. If you go to a place like Taylor and the Cook, they're using in the middle of the winter.
Right.
You're getting greens and stuff that have been grown here locally with these hydroponic
it really
process.
It's a matter of time before we get into medical mango, too.
Medical mango. I like it. Well, I kind of think this beer is medical mango right here. Check it out. Anyway, Joe, thank you. Nagel, great stuff. Cheers. We'll cheers. And the big Utica on tap is next week. Got to break. Hold tight. The candidate for Congress, George Phillips. He's a Republican. I hear him out in the hallway. He's coming in next on WIBX.